Hello everyone. Today I would like to introduce to you nutrition and immunity as a course unit. There is a great relationship between human nutrition and the immunity. Usually what you take into your body determines how strong your body will be. It will determine how strongly you resist infections and how well your life will be. So health starts with good feeding. Once you feed well and you're healthy, then you do not have to worry so much. You have all that you need. So what is healthy nutrition? When you talk about healthy nutrition, it's about eating the varieties of all the food substances that are present in your community. You have to include fruits and vegetables. You have to include proteins and fats and carbohydrates in the different proportions. I introduced to you my healthy plate in one of the courses that I lectured, and that will give you an overview of how much you're supposed to eat from each of these food groups. So it's always very, very important that you be very critical in your diet. You do not have to eat too much of anything, because anything that is taken in excess becomes toxic to the body. So when you eat too much, it can also stimulate the aging process. And also, when you eat too much, it can also stimulate harmful effects in the body, such as inflammation, and it will negatively impact the immune system. And this will potentiate the effects of aging, both the inflammation leading to cancer and infections and different allergies here and there. So as we go along, we are going to learn more about the immunity and how it links with our nutrition. So in this module, basically, I would like all of us to understand the relationship between nutrition and immunity, the importance of proper nutrition for immune function, the impact of nutritional deficiencies on immunity, and the strategies for using nutrition to support the immune system. The immune system is a network of cells, tissues, and organs that work together to protect the body from harmful invaders. So the human body has a network of cells, tissues, and organs that perform different functions to protect the body from any harm. Your heart performs its function, the liver performs, the lungs perform, and even the skin provides a barrier against external substances that may injure your internal body organs. So immunity is something that is very critical to our health. What you eat determines how healthy you will be. And some of our objectives today will be the immune system's role in protecting the body. We shall also talk about the two types of immune responses. We have the innate immune system and the adaptive immune system. And we shall also go ahead and look at the importance of immune cells in fighting infections and disease, and a brief overview of organs that are involved in immune function. So let's briefly look at the immune system and the different parts of the body that provide immunity against different harmful substances. The body's defense against pathogens and disease defines immunity. The immune system ability to distinguish self from non-self. So that will still define for you the immunity. It is the ability of the body to distinguish itself from other substances that are not part of the body. So even this brings us to the aspect of allergies. An allergy is simply a substance that the body recognizes as foreign. So once it recognizes that substance as a foreign substance, then it will produce immunity against it. And so you will see it evidenced with rashes on your body, hives. So the immune system's role in preventing cancer and chronic diseases is also very, very critical. So some of the different parts of the body that provide immunity, you find that mucous membranes provide immunity to the body, the tonsils, the lymphatic vessels, the lymph nodes, the spleen, the lymphatic vessels tail, the bone marrow, the skin, and the thymus. So as we go along, we are going to look at all these different parts and what they do in the body to provide immunity. So we have two types of immune responses. One of them is the innate immunity, and the second is the adaptive immunity. But within the two, we find that there are some cells that provide both innate and adaptive immunity. So the innate immune system's non-specific response to pathogens. So its response to pathogens is very not specific. It can fight against every other substance that is foreign to the body. But the adaptive immune system is very specific to pathogens. And how the innate and the adaptive immune responses work together to fight infections, we are going to still look at that interlinkage. So when we look at the innate immunity, we shall find the macrophages, the dendritic cells, the natural killer cells, the neutrophils, the mast cells, the basophils, and the eosinophils. And between the two, the innate and the adaptive immunity, we find the natural killer T cells. They are both specific and non-specific in their response to pathogens. For the adaptive immunity, we shall find the B cells, the antibodies, the T cells, and under the T cells, we shall have the CD4 T cells and the CD8 T cells. And these ones are commonly found in the aspect of HIV, how to determine how much this virus has invaded the body. You find out that CD4 cells, once the CD4 count is very low, then you know that the body has been invaded by the virus, and the helper cells are now not able to fight against these infections. So the innate immunity provides the body's first line of defense against pathogens. And it's also non-specific in its response to pathogens and other foreign invaders, as I've earlier mentioned. It includes the physical barriers such as the skin and the mucous membranes, and various other immune cells such as the macrophages and the dendritic cells that I already mentioned. And its response is very rapid towards infections. So what are the features of the immune system? I mentioned earlier on the natural killer cells, the macrophages, the dendritic cells, and the neutrophils. And these recognize the pathogen-associated molecular patterns. These are pumps. These pumps are also a different feature of the innate immune system. And the innate immunity also triggers the inflammatory response to protect the body against infection and injury. So how about the adaptive immune system? In the adaptive immune system, we shall mainly find the B cells and the T cells, and these cells can recognize and eliminate specific pathogens. It acts specific to given pathogens. And this immunity provides the body the ability to recognize and respond to specific pathogens. And it also provides long-term immunity to specific pathogens. Once it reacts towards a certain pathogen, then it's going to provide a long-term immunity against these pathogens. You find that with time, when you suffer from this sickness again, your body is going to fight back and you'll not even feel anything. And yet you have your body has been infected with these pathogens. Why? It's because the adaptive immune system has provided a long-term immunity against that pathogen. The ability to remember previous infections and mount a faster and more effective response to reinfection. This is what I'm talking about in the adaptive immune system. It will remember that it once suffered from this and it produced this component against this infection. So it will fight back with even a faster response. And it involves the production of antibodies which can bind to and neutralize the specific pathogens. And this adaptive immunity also involves the activation of the cytotoxic T cells, which can directly kill the infected cells. So what is the role of the immune cells in the body? The immune cells mainly play a critical role in fighting infections and disease. They also are responsible for recognizing and eliminating pathogens. And different types of immune cells have different functions in the immune responses. So particularly, we find that the white blood cells are the primary immune cells. In elementary science, you are taught that the cells that fight against infections in the body are the white blood cells. But again, we are going to find different types of white blood cells. For example, the neutrophils, the macrophages, the B cells, and the T cells. All these are different types of white blood cells that provide different defenses against different pathogens in the body. And each of these white blood cells, as I've said, has a specific function in the immune system. So let's briefly look at each of these types of white blood cells. The white blood cells are also known as leukocytes, and these are the immune cells that circulate in the blood. And these fight infections and all other diseases. So there are several types of white blood cells with their specific functions. For example, the neutrophils. These kill bacteria, fungi, and foreign debris. These are foreign materials that enter to your body through maybe the nose, through the eyes. So this foreign debris is filtered and fought against by the neutrophils. Then the monocytes clean up the damaged cells. In your body, as your body fights against different pathogens, you find that some of these cells are also damaged. And the damage caused to these cells causes these cells to be no longer needed in the body. So once they're no longer needed in the body, they are cleaned out. They are filtered out of the body. And this is done by the monocytes. And then we also have the eosinophils. These ones kill parasites, cancer cells, and they're also involved in allergic responses. And then the lymphocytes help fight viruses and also make antibodies. And then the basophils, finally, these are involved in allergic responses in the body. So we also have the dendritic cells. The dendritic cells are antigen-presenting cells which activate the adaptive immune responses. So let's look at each of these cells in a bit of more detail. The neutrophils, as I earlier said, they fight against bacteria, fungi, and foreign debris. So these are the most abundant type of white blood cells in the body because they do the most work. Every day our body is exposed to different kinds of bacteria and fungi and foreign debris. So that's why these neutrophils are very abundant in the body. And they are the first responders to infections. Any kind of infection in your body, they are always the first to respond. And they can also engulf and digest pathogens. So this is how they function. They do so by engulfing and digesting these pathogens. And then finally, they release toxic chemicals to kill these pathogens. And then the macrophages, these are scavenger cells, which also function by engulfing and digesting pathogens and other foreign particles. They can also activate other immune cells and help to initiate the immune responses. And they play a very critical key role in inflammation and tissue repair. How about the dendritic cells? These are antigen-presenting cells, as I already mentioned, and they activate the adaptive immune responses. And they can be found in different parts of the body, such as the skin, the lungs, and the gut. These capture and process the antigens, and then they present them to the T cells. And they also play a very critical role in activating immune responses towards infections. The natural killer cells. These cells are those that can directly kill infected cells. As you can hear, their name is natural killer cells. The body has a natural defense against infections. So these natural killer cells will directly invade these pathogens and kill them. And this is part of the innate immune response. The innate immunity is also called the natural immunity. This one is acquired at birth and also through breastfeeding. So you find that this immunity, this is where you find that the natural killer cells are built up in the body in abundance. And this can recognize and destroy virus-infected cells and also tumor cells. So you may have a benign tumor, and these natural killer T cells will come and destroy this these tumor cells before they turn into a cancerous tumor. So they also play an important role in controlling infections and preventing cancer. So how about the B lymphocytes, the B cells? These are the immune cells that produce antibodies in the body. And they are also very, very important in the adaptive immune response, since it's in the adaptive system that you find antibodies being produced. So they can recognize and bind to specific antigens. And they can also differentiate into plasma cells, which at the end produce large amounts of antibodies in the body. The T cells. The T cells, as I earlier said, they can be divided into two. We find that we have the T helper cells and the T killer cells. And these ones are involved in the adaptive immune system. The T helper cells are also called the CD4 cells, and the T killer cells are called the CD8 cells. These immune cells can directly kill infected cells and activate other immune cells. Different types of T cells have different functions, and they can also recognize and respond to specific antigens. So what are the different organs that are involved in immune function? One of the most critical organs involved in immune responses in the body is the lymphatic system. This one is a network of vessels and organs that is involved in immune function. Then we have also the thymus and the bone marrow. These are very important in development of immune cells in the body. And then the spleen and the lymph nodes. They filter the blood and the lymph respectively and remove pathogens and other foreign particles from the body. So let's briefly look at the lymphatic system. This picture here represents a human being and the different locations of the different parts of the lymphatic system. So the lymphatic system is a network of vessels and organs that is involved in immune function. And it mainly transports lymph, which is a fluid that contains immune cells and other components throughout the body. So this lymph moves all over the body, circulating and looking out for any infections because it contains the immune cells and any other immune components. And the lymph nodes are very tiny organs that filter the lymph and remove pathogens and other foreign particles. So let's look at both the left and the right hand side of this body. You find that on the right, we shall find the thoracic duct, the thymus, the auxiliary lymph nodes, the spleen, the lymphatics of the upper limb, and the inguinal lymph nodes. These are all found on the right hand side of the body. And then on the left, we shall find the cervical lymph nodes, the lymphatics of the mammary gland, the cisterna child, the lumbar lymph nodes, and the pelvic lymph nodes, and the lymphatics of the lower limb. So each of these has a specific function in the body to provide immunity against various pathogens. The thymus. So this is an organ that is located in the chest area, which is involved in the development of T cells. And once the T cells mature in the thymus, they can learn how to recognize and respond to specific antigens. So the thymus is always most active in childhood, and as you grow older, it gradually shrinks with age. So let's look at the different parts of the thymus. In the thymus, you'll find the thymic corpuscle, then you find the capsule, that is the outer covering. Then we also find the cortex, then the medulla, then the interlobular septum, and the thymic lobule. Yes, so those are the different parts of the thymus. The bone marrow. This is a spongy tissue inside bones where blood cells are produced. So the B cells are also produced and they mature in the bone marrow. This bone marrow is very, very important because it's involved in the production of other immune cells such as the neutrophils and macrophages. And as we earlier said, the neutrophils and macrophages are the most important cells in the body because the neutrophils fight against almost all the infections such as bacteria, fungi, and any foreign debris that gets into the body. So once you open the bone marrow is found inside of the bone. So once you cut open your bone, you will find the bone marrow. And inside the bone marrow, you'll find blood vessels. And then you will find also the blood stem cells, the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and the platelets. These are the ones that prevent clotting of the blood in the body. And then the spleen. This is an organ located in the abdomen which filters the blood. It removes the old and the damaged red blood cells and other foreign particles. And it also contains immune cells that can respond to infections and other threats in the body. So it has the splenic vein and the splenic artery that joins towards it so that it can filter out the bad and take in the good blood into the body. The lymph nodes. The lymph nodes are small organs located throughout the body that filter lymph, and they contain immune cells that can respond to infections and other threats. So once your lymph nodes are swollen, this is always a sign that there is an active immune response in the body that is being triggered by a certain infection. So swelling of lymph nodes is usually a sign of an infection in the body. The mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue. So this one is also very, very important in the body. So this tissue is located in the mucous membranes, such as in the respiratory and the digestive tracts. And it plays a very important role in protecting against pathogens that enter the body through especially the respiratory system and the digestive tracts. So when you get time, please go and look through the mouth system, research and read more, and find a more elaborate picture that you can be able to explain. So it contains immune cells that can also respond to infections and other threats. Then we also have the gut-associated lymphoid tissue. So this lymphoid tissue is located in the lining of the intestine specifically, and it protects the gastrointestinal tract against pathogens and other foreign particles that may enter through maybe the food item you have eaten, the drinks you take in. So all those pathogens are filtered out through the gut-associated lymphoid tissue. Then we have also the skin-associated lymphoid tissue. This one is located in the skin. So the name is usually derived from the part of the body where it's associated. That's why you hear skin-associated, gut-associated, then mucosa-associated. Yeah, so the skin-associated is located in the skin and also protects the skin against any pathogens that come from the outside. And so let's look at the interactions between the immune cells. We have cell-to-cell communication. So immune cells work together to fight infections and other threats. And also different types of immune cells have different functions in the immune system, but they also connect together to cause activation of an immune response, inactivation of an immune response, production of antibodies. All those processes, they are interlinked. Once the neutrophils sense an infection, they provide a signal to the rest of the cells that this is happening. So it's the first line of defense. Once it is defeated, the next cells come in to fight. So that is how the immune cells coordinate. So immune cells mainly communicate with each other through signaling molecules, such as cytokines. These cytokines are produced by immune cells and they can activate or inhibit other immune cells. And they play a critical role in coordinating immune responses to infections and other threats. Inflammatory response. So the body's response to injury, infection, and other forms of stress is known as inflammation. Inflammation is very important to the body because it helps to protect against pathogens and other foreign particles. And once your body senses an external substance, this inflammation can always be seen by redness of the skin, then swelling of that particular part of the skin, and then pain and also heat. You find a lot of heat. For example, if a nail pricks you and pathogens enter into the wound, an immune response is triggered first by the neutrophils. So the neutrophils sense this and then they produce Past cells, yes, these past cells are the ones that kill the pathogens that immediately attack the surface of the skin once it is injured. And then you'll find that you feel a lot of heat in that area. It is due to the inflammatory response. And shortly you start seeing redness on that part of the body that was pricked by the nail. And shortly still you're going to see swelling. And of course the pain is felt immediately as a result of the response. So inflammation is a key component of the immune system, and it helps remove pathogens and foreign particles. But chronic inflammation can contribute to development of chronic diseases, for example, heart disease and cancer. So how does inflammation take place? It is basically triggered by the presence of pathogens or other foreign particles. The immune cells release the cytokines that cause blood vessels to dilate and become more permeable. And this causes a rush of immune cells to the infected area. So this allows the immune cells to migrate to the site of infection and remove the pathogens and the other foreign particles. We have about 3 types of inflammation. Acute inflammation. This one is a short-term response to injury or infection. When your body gets pricked by a thorn, the first response that occurs, that is acute inflammation. Then chronic inflammation is a long-term response, the one that can contribute to the development of chronic diseases. So continuous inflammation of your tissues and cells in the body causes chronic and long-term responses that can cause even other chronic diseases. And then we also have the low-grade inflammation, which can be a sign of an underlying health issue. So we've been talking about cytokines. What is the role of cytokines in the body? Cytokines are signaling molecules produced by immune cells, and they play a very critical role in coordinating the immune response to infections and other threats. They can both activate or inhibit other immune cells. What is the impact of inflammation on our health? Nutrition, quality and quantity contributes to inflammation and also the development of cancer, and also contributes to aging. Excessive inflammation in the body contributes to early aging. You find that somebody is 30 years but is looking as if they are 45 years. And this is common in members of the community that smoke and drink a lot of alcohol. So these drugs cause a lot of inflammatory reactions in the body that contribute to chronic inflammation. And so the immune cells become worn out. And the end result is early aging. So chronic inflammation, as we already said, contributes to a lot of chronic diseases, for example, heart diseases and cancer. And some lifestyle factors such as diet and exercise can impact the inflammatory response. Eating too much is not healthy for the body. In nutrition, we emphasize moderation and limitation. Do not eat too much. When you eat too much, the body is going to react by causing a lot of inflammatory reactions. And this inflammation will be seen by your skin becoming um, old, wrinkling fast, and then you gain a lot of weight. Also, that too much weight is not healthy for the body. That is obesity. So at the end of the day, if you eat too much and you do not exercise, or maybe you eat unhealthy foods, junk foods, you drink a lot of alcohol, you smoke, you take different kinds of drugs and opioids. So this causes the body to uh, produce a lot of inflammation, and of course it leads to early aging and also contributes to cancer. So how does nutrition affect the immune system? What is the relationship between nutrition and infection? Proper nutrition is critical for well functioning of the immune system. And most nutritional deficiencies can also compromise the immune function and increase the risk of infections and other diseases. Certain nutrients, for example, vitamins and antioxidants, are very important for immune function. So when you take foods that are rich in these different vitamins and antioxidants, then you are able to counteract the different effects of inflammation in the body. So let's simply look at this cycle that shows us the association between malnutrition and infection. Malnutrition impairs the barrier protection. It impairs the function of the skin, even the gut, the respiratory system. When a child is very malnourished, you find that reductive adaptation takes place in the body. And this process causes many parts and many functions of the body to shut down to let the brain to function. So you find that at the end of the day, there will be impaired barrier protection against different infections. So you find that the risk of this child becoming infected with different viruses and the bacteria becomes high. That is why that once a child is screened as severely malnourished, they are given antibiotics, systemic antibiotics, to fight against all those infections that might have come as a result of the malnutrition. And also, this malnutrition at the end of the day impairs the immune function, and this increases the infections in the body. The same way, also, when someone has a lot of infection in the body, it will lead to malnutrition. How? This infection will decrease dietary intake. The person will lose appetite. Once the person loses appetite, they're not going to eat enough food. Once they're not consuming enough food, of course, the body is going to be compromised of nutrients, and this will lead to malnutrition. Infection can also cause malabsorption of nutrients in the body. You find that the gut cannot absorb some of the nutrients very well, such as vitamin A, vitamin C, even iron. So once their absorption is compromised, they find that certain deficiencies arise. So you find that the effects of the various infections that come into the body eventually will lead to malnutrition. So how do we boost our immunity through nutrition? The answer is very simple: by eating a balanced diet and also exercising. Drink enough water, eat a variety of fruits and vegetables, consume carbohydrates in moderation. Do not take a lot of carbohydrate foods because this causes excess calories in the body, and these excess calories will accelerate the inflammation. Too much sugars in the body increase the rate of oxidative reactive oxygen species, and these reactive oxygen species are the ones involved in the inflammation. So this too much inflammation, of course, will become chronic with the time, and hence it will lead to early aging and also contribute to cancer. So let's further again look at more of this relationship between nutrition and immunity. You find that good nutrition will contribute to a good nutrient status and nutrient stores. At the end of the day, there will be good immune function in the body and good defense against pathogens. But poor nutrient supply will cause poor nutrient status and stores, hence poor immune function and poor defense against pathogens. And this will lead to more infections and more severe infections, even greater illnesses, and then eventually death will happen. So it's very important to have a balanced diet. When you look at this picture, it shows you the variety of food substances that you can consume. Fruits and vegetables are particularly rich in vitamins and minerals, and these are very essential for immunity. So we shall look at them in more detail in the next presentation that I will make, giving you the details of the different nutrients and their role in immunity in the body. So you always have to aim for color and a variety of colors, and this will maximize the benefit. The more color in your food, the more nutritious foods you are consuming. Some of the immune boosting nutrients, vitamin A, vitamin C, and E, they act as antioxidants and they protect the immune cells against inflammation and oxidation. Zinc is also very important for immune cell development and function. And eating a variety of colorful fruits and vegetables can provide all these nutrients and boost your immunity. The importance of a balanced diet has already been reflected. A balanced diet will provide you with all the nutrients that you desire in your body to function well, and hence also have a healthy immune function in the body. So some of the foods that you should include in your diet for a stronger immune system include vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, zinc, and selenium-rich foods. And also they help to boost your immune system. Some of the examples of these foods, you have the citrus fruits such as oranges, mangoes, lemons, tangerines, then almonds and yogurt, and many others that have not been mentioned. So thank you very much for being such a great learner. Keep up the learning. Amen.